I have a new favorite. Ladies and gentlemen, come gather round, come gather round, come gather round. This has dethroned my previous favorite. It's this favorite welder. Oh yes, I've spent a fair bit of time with this and all of its features for the past 2 months, I think, and I've fallen in love, and I'm putting this on the cart of provenance. This is my new favorite, and I'm going to tell you about it, whether you like it or not. Let's go!
The feature that intrigues me with this unit is Pulse MIG, and I wanted to know what that was like. But while we get into that, and we're going to get into that, I want to let you know that while this machine can do 110 volt and 220 volt, for 110 it requires a 50 amp outlet. I don't have a 50 amp 110 outlet, and I don't even know what it looks like. It turns out it's half of a range plug or a dryer plug. It uses a neutral and one of the hots. I didn't put that in my shop, so I had a bit of a challenge there. I had to turn the current way down to make it live on 110. So for me, it'll probably stick with 220. I did get them to send a torch because I wanted to try the lift arc TIG that this thing can do. It comes with a stinger. I mistakenly used the wrong stinger to do stick later on, but that's the one it comes with. It's a decent machine, decent hardware. It does not come with any spool. It does not come with a regulator, but it does give you a Euro-style Binzel design torch, a ground clamp, and a stinger for doing stick. My initial impression with this is not one of fondness. I'm having a hard time getting the saran wrap off of this, go figure. But the screen was a little bit kind of funky. Had a weird little warble in it. Operationally, it was fine. It didn't impress me right from the get-go. Normally I like to take the welders apart and have a look inside, but I couldn't see how to disassemble this one without wrecking it.
Oh, this looks intimidating.
So MIG, one of the things I like about MIG is this arc long feature where I can increase a bit of heat or decrease a bit of heat. With MIG, I like to run a little bit hotter than the charts seem to want, and that arc long is a nice feature for me. MIG on 220 will go from 52 amps to 200 amps. Pulse MIG will go 30 to 200. Stick, I missed the TIG one. We'll probably go back through it. Stick will go from 20 all the way up to 180 amps, I believe. All of this is on 220. It'll be less on 110. So 200 for regular MIG, 200 for Pulse MIG, 200 for a lift arc TIG. Pretty sure it went down to 20. And then 4T just allows you to push the button, and then you can handle it however you want, and then you got to push it again to shut it off. 2T is what I use most of the time. It'll do spot as well. And then what I like about this is it will apparently let me run 200 amps with 023 wire. I crossed my fingers for good luck. Turns out I had to adjust the arc long to make it do it because it just couldn't push the wire out fast enough. 023 is a little excessive for something that high a current, but great for bodywork. And the owner's manual tells you what a lot of these features are, and play with it. There's a lot of things it can do. I wanted to play with every feature and see what the difference was, but in MIG settings, one of the things you can change is inductance. If the inductance is too low, you're going to get a lot of spatter. If it's too high, the wire is going to stab the puddle with not quite enough heat. In the double pulse, you have the IBS, which is your current, the base current for the pulse. It has the same range settings as the full welder. You can also change the frequency as well as the duty cycle. And there's you got to kind of poke around and find all the settings. Keep the manual with you. It gives you a lot of information. And it'll change the settings depending on what kind of wire and gas you're putting through it too. For my first test, For my first trick, I'm going to run 035 solid core MIG wire. Not sure why I chose this first, but probably because it was the first button on the top of the machine. So I'm going to feed that through the torch.
Comes with a couple V groove, 06, 08, 08, and 09. Comes with a U groove. I can't remember if that's for aluminum. In 9 or 1.2. The serrated in 0.8 and 0.9.
And this welder will fit the small, what is it, 2-pound spool and I want to say the 10-pound spool. I don't know, whatever the next size up. Not the big, huge spools that you need to lift with your knees, but your small and your medium-sized spools of wire. There is the button on the right-hand side. If you just push it in, automatically feeds the wire through, no gas, which is a lovely little feature.
Satisfactory.
And then, because I work with a lot thinner stuff and I've been doing a fair bit of sheet metal work, I wanted to see how successful this welder will be with my 023 or 025 or whatever it is, the tiny wire. I had a whole spool of it. So I'm going to put it in and see, can it give me 200 amps with 023? Can I catch the whip before it lands on the floor? And this is a piece of probably 050 sheet metal. And I like to see how well it deals with low current. Like, I think this thing goes down to, it was set at 40 amps. So I want to see how well will it do it. Pulse is kind of cool. Just like in TIG welding, you want to run enough heat to give a pretty good hot penetrating weld, but then you pulse it, you back off to cool or chill the puddle a little bit so you can weld a little bit more intense without melting it.
Well, that's fun. Holy crap. That's pulse MIG. That's regular MIG. That's interesting. It's hot. It burns in. It's kind of fun. Neat idea. Is this something I would use for steel? Okay, let's try aluminum.
Aluminum is where I think the pulse feature is going to really shine, because then you can not let the heat get carried away from you.
Last time I did this, everybody was like, oh, you're using the wrong aluminum. You got to use 53 something. All right. 53, 56. Let's have some luck.
To push aluminum through the whip, you need to change the liner. This welder comes with a graphene liner. I think it's just some kind of graphite thing which makes it a little more slippery. And the instructions in the booklet are very clear and very detailed with pictures and step-by-steps on how to change the liner. So we take that out. The red one is the one that came in, and then the gray one is the graphene liner. And I was a little confused exactly how this thing attached. There's like a collet that I didn't quite figure out how to make it work, but I got it together, it worked, and it worked quite well. I don't usually MIG weld aluminum, but this seems to be a current trend in MIG welders. If you have the option to AC TIG, that's always better, but you know, that's a whole nother tank of an extra different kind of shielding gas. So if you can push MIG through this, well, no, I guess you got to run straight argon if you're doing this too. All right, so if you don't have a TIG, but you have an argon tank for this, this will work. So put the liner through and then attach it all in there. Different rollers for aluminum, and then we run the wire through it.
All right, when you're pushing aluminum, you want to use the U grooves. This one says U. Also running a larger tip than I need. Bingo. Some say using an 035 is a bit too tight for this. Some say you should use a size larger tip. But I'm going to try the 035 and see if it becomes one. Well, I very definitely do not like that. Also, do not like that. Oh, hot. Oh, that's hot. Well, that's actually not tremendously offensive. All right. That's interesting. So the bottom one's kind of gross. I welded on top of a weld over here, and I think I was pulling, and this way I was pushing, and the top one I was pushing. I tried to linger here. One of the things with MIG on aluminum is the metal's cold, and it doesn't really change its way of doing things. So you're going to get a bit of a cold weld, and then the heat kind of gets away from you at the end. That's probably the advantage of pulse here. Good penetration. Let's try it with the pulse. All right. Definitely worth putting the arc length down. It'll do it. It'll do it.
So here I'm just playing with different settings, and I guess as the aluminum gets hotter and hotter, I turn the current down lower and lower. I did come back to this later and did some more welding, and it had definitely cooled off and needed some more heat, but I was playing with it, trying to get the feel for it. I really don't have a lot of experience making aluminum, but this really felt kind of easy and convenient.
All right, uncleaned. I mean, no cleaning after the weld. This is it. This is what I'm looking at. It's not TIG, but I'm not swearing at it. I'd say that's okay.
So this one's just a full 1.5-minute bead with the pulsar on, playing with the aluminum, trying to get the feel for it. I've sped this up because while I kind of like the fart sounds, you might not. So we're speeding it up to this point.
Let's turn the pulsar off. Go back to this one. Oh, the heat just gets away from you. Let's try double pulse. Oh, that's nice. And then I broke it. Not the machine, the torch. I'll show you. So under the nozzle, we've got the tip, a collet, and this ceramic diffuser. What I've found that I really don't like about this is, especially in welding the aluminum on here, pushing aluminum through here was working nice. However, I go through a lot of tips when I'm doing aluminum. It might just be me, but the way this is designed, you can't just pull this off and then pull out the tip, because the tip is going to pull this off, and then you try to tighten her down so that it doesn't, you don't need 2 wrenches, and then the heat and stuff expands, and I don't know, and that's shattered. So I'm not impressed with this. And it's not a Yes Welder thing. This is a Binsel design torch, and it's just the way that this other company does it. It might be produced, this one might be produced by Yes Welder, but it's just a unique design. I think I prefer the Lincoln, Tweco, Miller kind of stuff. I want to be able to do this one hand with just my MIG pliers, and to tighten the collet down tight enough that I can easily remove the tips. I fractured this. So then the question is, can you get parts for these? Yes, you can. Through the wonders of Amazon, I've got a whole collection of tips, nozzles, collets, and it wasn't horribly expensive, but I know I'm going to go through more of these. And then now that I've got it, I thought, whatever lucky student gets this welder is going to get a whole bunch of tips. So I guess that's cool. Or I might break a bunch. So I'm going to put it together with new collets, new ceramics, and let's go. I think I paid about 30 bucks for this. Sealed for your protection. Check out my new channel where you watch an old man try to open Ziploc bags. Ugh. painful. Oh, why would they do this to me? All right. This was off Amazon. I got $1mm tips and 0.8mm tips. This was not ordered from Yes Welder. This is just for the Binsel design, everything. So we've got collets, ceramics, and nozzles. They're pretty much the same as what came with the welder. So I've got extras. These don't come off as easy as I want them to. But I definitely have a lot of them. This is what I need right now. So I'm just going to set these in here. I don't need the nozzles. I sure go through tips with aluminum though. Doesn't matter what the welder is. I go through a lot of them. Don't do this up very snug. Well, that's weird. Shouldn't matter. That's longer, but there's plenty of room. All right, I'll get a wrench. Okay, so that's weird. This tightens, but doesn't tighten. It's loose. So then what the heck did I do? I'm pretty sure this was snug before. Yeah, that's snug. That's holding the ceramic. All right, maybe I need not this. I don't know. Let's try this one. Is this normal? Leave a comment below if that's normal with this style torch. If so, that's a better way to go, because if you can't crush this, you can't break this. So I wonder if there's something wrong with Yes Welder's version. Let's try the other tips. Oh, that's huge better. Could be the other one shrunk from the heat. I don't know. All right, let's get rid of this tip because I probably wrecked that. Well, if that's the case, that might not be such a complaint. So this thing says it can do lift arc DC TIG. To find out, I picked up their torch. It doesn't come with a pedal, it doesn't use a pedal, and it really can't control gas. So you have one of these kind of guys. You got to turn on that little knob to let the gas come out, and then you shut it off. Like you turn the gas on, strike it up, do your welding, pull away, and then shut off the gas. So it comes with a fair long thing here that I got to move my argon tank closer because it doesn't turn the argon on for you. Argon on, argon on, argon on. Alright. Guess that'll work.
So yes, I'm making my own hitch mount. Actually, I cut up the existing one that I had. I bought a trailer, which you'll see a video of shortly, and I need to make a hitch that's long enough that it'll fit out from behind my license plate as a hidden hitch and clear the bumper. What a sweet opportunity then to use LiftArc TIG for a root pass on this little beastie, and I'll follow it up with 200 amps of MIG welded glory. So I'm trying out both. It's like a twofer in the MIG welder and the TIG welder right before your very eye. Just the one. So I'm probably using 3/16 serrated tungsten, probably an 1/8 inch rod. I've got this thing cranked at a full 200 amps, and you use straight argon for TIG welding. I think this is quarter wall 2x2 welded to the hitch part that I cut off a previous hitch. And apparently I'm listening to some music, which hopefully YouTube won't recognize, especially if I keep talking. I teach my metalwork students by levels, and I don't usually have my level 1s learn TIG, but if they do exceptionally well with oxyacetylene, I definitely push them to play with TIG. The first little bit is always sharpening tungsten, because you don't want to touch. But we do.
So I confess to going a little soft. My own personal TIG has a water-cooled torch, and when I've got the cables wrapped around me so I can support them while I'm welding, I don't feel 200 amps worth of heat, but I'm feeling 200 amps going through this thing as it goes on my body, and it's kind of not that comfortable. Good thing I don't have a pacemaker, so you may want to consider that. It's probably fine. It's probably fine. I don't normally weld with 200 amps, but I want a lot of burn happening on here, and that's getting warm. That's getting warm.
I'm not a ticketed welder, so if you're a ticketed welder, I'm sure you can fill the comments below with all the things I did wrong, but I do know that TIG really has no sense of humor for anything other than perfectly clean, and I didn't really want to go and sandblast the whole thing and hope for the best. So I gave it a good scrub with my steel-only stainless wire brush, and then I just went to town with welder on full bore. You can see, I think I have it set at 175 amps. It might have been getting a little out of control on me. Whatever, it works. And there's a lot of weld, because I don't want this to break off.
And apparently this thing can run a spool gun. To find out, I got one. Make sure it's a Euro style tip. Let's get it going.
So this was the cheapest spool gun I could find on Amazon. And luckily for me, it uses Miller parts, because not only did I eat all of my tips, but I also destroyed the nozzle. Parts are readily available.
There's a switch inside. You got to set it up to spool gun. There we go. I'm going to go through tips, I can tell.
Truthfully, having pushed aluminum through the whip on this welder and run a spool gun, I'm not sure I'm seeing a phenomenal difference between the two. So unless there's a significant reason why you should, this would do just fine pushing aluminum through the whip. I've always figured the only way to do it is with a spool gun. No longer. This machine will push it through, and you don't have to get a spool gun, which is definitely most convenient, especially with the pulse feature. Probably should be pushing so I get less soot on there.
All right, stick. Not my favorite, but it'll do it. So, of course, we gotta try. I have it running 220 volt so that I can get up to 130 amps to run this 1/8 inch rod. You've got an option here in weld spec for the dig, I think, and you can fine tune that to whatever you think you want. I'm going to leave it at 0 because I don't know what I'm doing, but I may crank it to 10 and see what happens. But you can adjust We can get up to 180 amps when we're on 220. I'll find out what we have on 110 in a moment. All right, let's give it. That has got to be by far one of the nicest starts that a welder I've ever tested has given me. That was cool. Wow. This has got to be one of my best MIG weld beads. I'm going to keep this one at school and show kids that this is what it should look like. That turned out nice. I'm going to play with some of the other settings here. I'm going to turn up the dig. So this is, setting it to 10 made this a lot runnier. I think I'll keep it at 0, which works better for the 0 times that I do stick welding.
So while testing this welder, I was also at the same time working through rebuilding, restoring, modifying a trailer that I had bought for apparently way too much money. And partway through the process of this, I dragged out the S-Welder and did the rest of my welding on this trailer with it. And it is certainly a powerhouse of a machine, to the point that it sits on my cart and it's replaced my previous welder. So thoroughly impressed with this welder. One of my disappointments is it draws a fair amount of current on 110. It's supposed to be on a 50 amp outlet. I was able to weld with about 100 amps on it off of 110, but if the machine was idling for a while, just running and not actually welding, as soon as I started welding, the instant I pulled the trigger, it would pop the breaker, which was kind of annoying. And I'm on 20 amp outlets in my shop, and nothing else is on the outlet, just the welder. But reading the booklet, the owner's manual, where it says it should be on a 50 amp breaker, I don't have that on 110. So to me, it's a 220 unit. Be interesting to play with it and see how low you can go, but I don't want it popping the breaker to only 100 amps. Could be something wrong with my setup. It definitely tags nice. It will push aluminum through it really nice. It runs the spool gun really nice. And impressed with the the pulse feature, especially with aluminum. So yeah, I wouldn't bother buying a spool gun. I would push aluminum through the whip on this, and it's an amazing 220 MIG welder. Like the things you can screw with or adjust or tweak are definitely impressive, and I'm impressed. So I'm keeping this one. I'm not giving it to a kid. I know I said earlier I would. Nope, I'm keeping this one. So as always, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you again.